Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Purcell, and welcome to today's session on helping kids eat healthy. I know that sometimes getting kids or your kids or anyone's kids, your grandkids to eat healthy can be a really big challenge. So I want to discuss just the basics with you today, just as little reminders so you can help them get the nutrients, the nutrition they need for healthy, strong, growing bodies and so they don't have to struggle with health things throughout their life. I mean, it's just so important for us to have our health and start young with what good nutrition is so that we feed ourselves properly. So I want to cover the basics for you today to help your kids build a healthy, lifelong connection with their food. So there's going to be 5 points. I love my 5 things. I think it's short, it's sweet, and people remember really well 5 things. One, kids learn by watching. Okay, so I'm going to talk about these 5 points and then go into more detail a little bit later on today. So point number 1, kids learn by watching. Point number 2 is that it's important for all of us to eat regularly, and making sure that you sit your kids down or at least have organized meals. That's important. The third point is have them get involved with cooking and preparation of their food so that they feel more connected with it. Point number 4 is variety. Variety is the spice of life. Change it up. New things, new foods, new shapes, new sizes, old foods, new foods. And number 5, no doesn't always mean no. Okay? For all you parents out there. So eating habits start when we're young. We learn from our families, we eat with our families, and eating habits can pave the way towards good health, or they can pave the way towards diabetes, heart disease, cancer, colon cancer, weight gain, and just affect every part of our life. So, this conversation that we're having today is a very valuable one for the youth of America and for the future of America as well. So number 1, kids learn by watching. This is especially true in the first 7 years. And so, sure, they learn some by listening, but they mostly learn by watching, and they learn by watching you. Okay? So if you want them to eat their broccoli, you had better start by eating yours. Right? So we want to lead by example. They can tell when you're happy or mad or sad, and they can also tell if you're enjoying your dinner or not, or if you're eating your vegetables or not. Okay? So they learn by watching, so it's really important for us to lead by example. And if you want to kick it up a couple of notches, then the best thing to do is start oohing and eyeing and making all these amazing sounds and telling them how delicious your zucchini is while you're eating it, because that makes them curious. My mom's eating that. She seems to be really enjoying it. Maybe I want to try it. And maybe they'll like it. And they'll eat it the next day and the next, or a week later. So, you are more powerful than you think, okay? And they learn by watching you. All right, that's point number 1. Point number 2, what else do I want to say about that? Oh, yeah. This totally got the goat of my mom, and I want to share it with you. For a while there, my mom was doing food demos. And she would tell me repeatedly, time after time, this thing that really annoyed her. And it was when a child came up to the food demo table, she had to ask if they had any allergies or things. And, in this particular example, she was serving kale chips. And the child would say, "What's that?" And she would say, "Kale chips." And then the mom would come up behind the child and say, "Oh, no, he doesn't eat that. You don't like that, little Johnny." And then the mom would make like this really sour face because it was kale and like, ugh, And so my mom would say to me, she's like, how does, little Johnny know that he doesn't like the kale chips? Because he didn't even try the kale chips. And so, again, as parents, we really want to not put words in our kids' mouth. If they're going to gobble down the pickles and you don't like pickles, who cares? Pickles are good for them, right? And so we don't want to, project our feelings, about certain fruits and vegetables or healthy food options onto our kids. We want to let them decide for themselves. So just be very aware of the messages that you are sending out about food to children. So part 2 of this, point number 2, is to feed children regularly. And it's important to get in the habit of eating regular meals, 3 square meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then cutting down on some of those grazing behaviors where like, oh, well, he just comes into the kitchen when he's hungry, right? So then he's never really getting a square meal. And that can affect children in a whole bunch of ways. One, they don't have good eating habits that they then take on with them later in life. But 2, they're not getting all the nutrients that need if they're just having snacky foods throughout the day. And it's really hard because, with the picky eaters that some kids are, we just we get tired, preparing meals and they're not eating them and he's not hungry or she's not hungry. And, we kind of get worn down as parents, so then it's just easier to default to this type of grazing behavior. It actually happened to one of my girlfriends, who's a naturopathic doctor, but she fell in the same hole, that many parents fall into. She had a very picky eater who wouldn't eat, and then they just got into this grazing behavior, type of habit at the house. And then about 6 months later, right, her child grew and things changed and grandma came out to stay and grandma, made her child 3 square meals a day. And lo and behold, he sat down and ate them, to the shock of my girlfriend. And, it's just because kids grow and there's always an age and a stage, and maybe what worked for him or her earlier on, and now that they're growing and bigger, is not going to work for them. So just, what's right. So try to just reinforce what's right. And if it's not working this month, then maybe try next month again, right? Because we're raising these little humans who need to learn how to take better care of their bodies, how to feed them, the feeding and care of the human body. All right, so point number 3 is to involve children in food preparation. I really can't stress this enough. I think this is huge because kids want to be included. They have this bubbling effervescence about them, and they're learning and they're soaking things up, and there's these little sponges, and they're curious about everything and everyone. And so you can completely take advantage of this curiosity as a way to introduce your children to all kinds of foods. And getting them involved in food preparation just adds so much richness and so much value to your day and your day-to-day interactions with them when they can get involved with the food preparation activities. And, it's not just me saying this, but research shows that children who are involved in shopping and cooking are healthier and more adventurous eaters. Okay, so kids who are involved, shopping and cooking, they're healthier and more adventurous eaters. Plus, preparing food at home lowers the sugar, fat, caloric content of the meals and is much healthier than restaurant meals. And I see this time and time again, and I know sometimes, as moms, we're multitasking and we're busy and we're hurried, but it's going to be easier to hand your child the cell phone and have him or her just watch a video while you grocery shop or try to check out or do something in the food process, but you're missing out on a huge opportunity to connect them with their food. Right? So if they go grocery shopping with you and you're taking them through the produce aisles and, you're showing them things and they're getting excited because they can identify things, and then they actually put it in the bag, we count limes into a bag or something like that, and you take it home, right? And now that becomes part of the dinner. There's just this amazing that connection that happens inside their brain, right? So they want to explore and they want to create. And so when they help prepare the meal, it appeals literally to every sense that they have. And then they're going to be a lot more willing to try it. And I just got a note here from Melissa. It's what's one of Braulio's favorite foods to cook with me. And I'm going to share a little bit in a story about Braulio just in a minute. So stay tuned for that. But getting kids involved is really, really, really important, and it just makes those connections and those little synapses in their brain work better, and their curiosity just gets piqued. So number 4, variety, 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 right? Variety is best. New foods, old foods, cut them up a different way, shape, sizes. And it's really important to start early on, because when a baby is born, all 5 tastes are there, just ready for the taking. Anything and everything goes. You've got a wide open palate to deal with. But then as children age, what happens is their taste buds become sensitized to the foods they're used to eating. So then all of a sudden, if they're not used to eating celery, or they're not used to having, carrot sticks, then they're not going to taste as good as they do when they're younger and you've got this wide open palate to deal with. So taste buds become more sensitized to the foods that we perceive as good, right? So an example, as adults listening, if you kind of have a sweet tooth and you're used to, eating something chocolatey, then something from that Mother Nature provides isn't going to taste as sweet. And the same thing happens with children. The same thing happens when we start eating a lot of fast food. Our taste buds change. So because kids are curious, it's really important to present them with foods over and over again that they can manipulate and prepare and sample for themselves. So it's really easy to get worn down and give your kid what you know that he or she will eat, because you're tired and maybe you've made other foods and your efforts haven't been well received. But, in the long run, that just doesn't serve them, to just continue to give them what you know that they're going to eat. It doesn't serve them and it doesn't serve you. And you're setting yourself up for a lot of years of making a second dinner for your children. And I like to say, let them figure things out. Like, let them figure out that rice isn't always white. Okay, rice comes in a lot of different colors. Rice is brown, rice is black, the forbidden rice. Rice is wild rice, right? And so they may prefer white rice, but if you got them involved in the cooking and the preparation of brown rice or wild rice, I bet that they would try it. And maybe they might even like it, right? So change it up. One week you make this kind of rice. The next week you make that kind of rice. And so it goes, right? Same with potatoes. Lots of colors of potatoes. Red, white, brown, purple, sweet potatoes. So go ahead. Let them try, let them sample, let them know that there's more out there for them to explore, because they're curious. They're so curious. So it's really easy as a parent to feel defeated. Your best cooking attempts and all this yummy food that you make and buy and prepare for them, maybe all of your efforts just get kicked to the curb and you feel defeated. With one negative grunt or a sour face or a "I don't like it" response. But, we can't take it personally. We just cannot. I mean, your child is experiencing the world. They're like little explorers. And what they don't like today, they might like tomorrow. So, I always say, if your roasted red beets get spit back out at you, try the golden beets next week and cut them up in a different shape, and they just might try those. So point number 5 that I have for you today is a no doesn't always mean no. And I want to tell you a story about Braulio and how this all came to pass. And Braulio is my son. He's 3 years old. And we have a lot of fun, and there's a lot of highs, and there's a lot of lows, and there's not a lot of middle road. So just because a child says no doesn't mean that that's no forever. It's just no for right now. And so they very likely will try that food again in a different form or in the same form if you present it to them just repeatedly. Also, what I have found to be extremely valuable is they will come to like a food item if they see it presented in another way to them. So if you read about it in a book, if the food is in a nursery rhyme, if it's in a song, the classic tale of Peter Rabbit. Peter Rabbit went into Mr. McGregor's garden and he ate lettuce and beans and peas. Right? So if it's good enough for Peter Rabbit, it just might be good enough for little Ethan. Right? So you get my drift here. So one day, here's my story. My son Braulio, we went to the library and he found this book called How to Make a Pancake. And prior to reading this book, I would make him pancakes and he would eat somewhere between 1, maybe 2 pancakes if I was lucky. And as all of you know who have made pancakes, it takes a little bit of work to make pancakes, and there's some dishes to be cleaned and all that, and you'd like to know that your efforts were well received. Well, previous to this book that we read, my efforts at pancake making were not well received, and I was a little frustrated. So he brought home this book on how to make a pancake one day, and he was extremely excited, and we read the book multiple times, and of course he wanted to make pancakes. So we made pancakes. I doctored them up a little bit. We added some flax seeds, some cinnamon, some wild blueberries, and they were super yummy. And lo and behold, Braulio ate 7 pancakes. Because in the book it says make a big stack and eat them. And he ate a big stack. And ever since then, pancakes have been added to his menu plan, right? Another example of this is guacamole. Avocados and guacamole. Something similar happened to the pancake book with that. So I had offered him guacamole several times to no avail. He just wasn't interested. It was weird texture, weird color, kind of mushy. And then we discovered the Guacamole song by Dr. Jean on YouTube. And before long, he was singing the guacamole song. He was dancing along to the guacamole song. And we were making guacamole. And then the best part is that he was eating his own guacamole that he made. Okay? So a no isn't always a no. Kids are curious. They want to get involved with cooking. They want to create something. Don't we all? If you created the desk you're sitting at right now, wouldn't you be so proud? Wouldn't you have pride in that desk? Well, guess what? Kids do when they prepare their own food, and they're more willing to try it. They become more adventurous and healthier, right? Yeah. So variety is best. Having them eat 3 square meals is best. And I just really hope that you enjoyed my tips today, because kids will learn by watching you. And I wish you all the success in your home with helping your kids to eat healthier. So have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.